Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Gentry's Journey. I am Carolyn Coleman, and we have a guest today, Joyce E. Brooks. And she's going to tell us about her. She is multifaceted. We women, we do more than one thing. Joyce has proven that as well. So, Joyce, welcome to Gentry's Journey. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, I am Joyce E. Brooks. I'm originally from Pritchard, Alabama. Moved to Birmingham, Alabama after college, graduated from the University of South Alabama with a degree in electrical engineering, and started working for Alabama Power. Stayed with them for 21 years, and I have my master's in electrical engineering from UAB. And after I retired from Alabama Power, I decided to become what I called initially a mompreneur. I have a small business called Brooks Consulting, where we work with individuals and organizations gain a competitive advantage by working on leadership, individual, improved well-being, and teams, building your team. And I have two sons. I was married for 14 years before I became a widow.
Mm-hmm.
Two sons that are today 20 and 23.
Okay.
I won't trade them in, but they do need a tune-up from time to time. Um, Part of my business, I get an opportunity to train individuals on work-life balance and stress management. Also do, keynote speeches based upon the books I've written. And I'm also an artist. I hadn't painted anything lately, but I discovered that was something I was capable of doing. Kind of fell into that. And now I do a little property investment and renovation. I had one project back in 2017 after I had left a power company where I was asked to serve as a project manager to oversee it, and I
Mm-hmm.
got and I got hooked. I'm like, it's not that. I mean, I look back at things that I paid somebody to do, like replace a faucet or a light switch or repair a hole in sheetrock. And
Mm-hmm.
after watching the crew for about 3 months, I was like, wait a minute now, this. I can do this. This isn't that hard, you know. So that's me in a nutshell. That's a lot, but I live by the motto, it ain't over. Every morning we receive new grace, new mercy. I try again. Each day I just strive to be better than I was yesterday, understanding that I'll never be perfect and was never called to be. So now that I got that off my plate, life is a little bit easier. Even with the challenges we face from day to day, I have the assurance that I'm not walking alone and I don't have to worry about it. I wasn't called to worry about anything.
That's beautiful. When I read your bio, something hit you. That hit me. I was like, it ain't over. And it's not. Sometimes we feel as though we need to be doing more, or, we might feel empty that we haven't completed something, and I often tell people it's one day at a time, one foot in front of the other. Every day that God gives you another day, that's another day to strive for. But if you're coming from an environment where it was structured. You had to be here at this time, here at this time, here at this time. And when that assignment is over, then you're like, I'm missing something. There's something I need to be doing. It's really not, it's just that it has changed. Your day has changed. You no longer are timed to be here, there, and everywhere. Not every day, but if you do have something to do and you have to get up extra early for it or stay late, that is going to be your new normal. And that's what we need to think about, our new normal. So when it comes to stress management, how do you go about instructing people on how to de-stress?
Okay, I start off by because I'm not licensed or studied it. I learned it by doing it. I was guilty of being stressed and not knowing it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but First thing with my classes, I tell them what the Heart Association recommends as well as the Mayo Clinic. And they emphasize things like avoid things that stress you, adapt to things you cannot change, you know. They also talk about find time to relax. Um, Forgive yourself for things. Don't try to pursue being perfect. So I give them the standard, what those individuals have studied, and what they have shown to be proven techniques and tools for managing stress. Then I said, okay, now I'm going to keep it real. Okay, I'm going to give you my formula for managing stress that does not require you to get a prescription or a subscription. All you got to do is make this decision. When I kept thinking about stress, I was like, wait a minute, what's the opposite of stress? It's peace to me.
True.
You know, and to the two cannot reside in the same vessel. One is going to dominate. Either I'm going to be stressed or I'm going to be at peace. And I know
Mm-hmm.
some people say you can have a combination of both at different times, but I like to look at it as a zero sum game. I'm either one or the other. I'm a zero or 100 person.
Mm-hmm.
So don't push that trigger. You got to get 100. I mean, I'm from Pritchard. I'm just saying, you know. But the peace strategy is what I promote, and the peace stands for prayer. And if that's not somebody's walk, I respect that. But meditate. But you need to be still, be calm, um, and lay your burdens on the altar and look towards something that's greater than yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
that assurance begins that process of feeling peace to me. When I've reached a point in my life when I release control, because thinking you can control everything will stress you.
That's true.
And we don't. And
Yeah,
we don't have control.
we
But the
don't.
acceptance of the fact that yes, you can make decisions from day to day, but you don't control anything. The traffic, the stock market, your children, whatever
Mm-hmm.
it may be. So the first letter in the strategy, P stands for me, prayer.
Mm-hmm.
The E stands for energy. How do we have the energy to deal with the day to day, what is going to happen? You got to take care of your mind, your body, and your soul. Some people, when I'm with groups, we can be specific. Let's talk about the body. We neglect our bodies when it comes to what we put in it. And think about it. You eat junk food before you go to bed and you lay down on it, and then you want to know why you keep waking up at 1 and 2 in the morning. You
Mm-hmm.
got to take care of your body in order to be able to deal with what's going to happen that is beyond your control. Take care of your mind. Mental health is so important. A lot of times we're carrying burdens and scars from childhood that we have not released. And then all of a sudden you're at the family reunion and someone say, "Oh, you ain't married yet." And
That
boom,
can be a trigger. That can be a
that could
trigger.
be a trigger,
Mm-hmm.
So your mental health is important too, being able to handle your own emotions. And of course your spirit,
Mm-hmm.
that goes back to the prayer. The A is adjust your attitude, and that one to
Mm-hmm.
me is major. I do a gratitude list either in the morning or at night before I go to bed. Sometimes I call it being thankful backwards when I go to
Mm-hmm.
bed at night. I lay there and I think about the day, everything I'm thankful for from I'm laying in my bed, I'm in my house, my children are upstairs, the dog is asleep. Oh, I had an excellent dinner. That bourbon salmon from Publix was so good. Thank you. Oh, I got a chance to talk to my mom. She's 93 and
Mm-hmm.
she's doing good and she's
Praise
still so
God.
and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I fall asleep in the process of
Of being
trying
thankful.
to being thankful.
Yeah.
So the A is adjust our attitudes. We should have an attitude of gratitude. I don't know anybody who say I'm going to Ukraine for the weekend to hang out. We have so much to be thankful for. And
Mm-hmm.
we're so blessed. United States got its issues. I'm
True.
not going to talk about Pennsylvania Avenue, but
Not
what
at
I
all.
do know, I'm not leaving.
I,
I do know that I'm not leaving.
you nor I. You nor I.
Thank you very much. So,
Mm-hmm.
having an attitude of gratitude helps you feel that sense of peace
Mm-hmm.
because there are more things to consider that are you're appreciative for than those things that stress you out. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
C is communication. That is key. Some of us are stressed because we don't know how to say no.
True. True.
We're people pleasers. We're determined to show everybody we're perfect. And I'm here to tell you we're not. So learning to say no is important.
Mm-hmm.
Listening to the wisdom of others is important.
Yeah.
I remember being at Alabama Power working with an older employee who would give me advice. And at first, I be honest, I was like, why she keep trying to tell me what to do this, is that? And she said, baby, I'm trying to protect you from potholes
Mm-hmm.
because I've been in them. And
Mm-hmm.
you filter advice, but listen to the wisdom of others because they've
Mm-hmm.
been on the journey, been there,
That's
did
true.
that, done it. No reason for me to stress out over the same thing they already done learned from.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last part of communication, if you need help, ask for it.
Mm-hmm.
And that help could be seeing a therapist to help you work through some childhood traumas, you know. That help could be hiring somebody to clean your house because you tired of walking in your house and say, "Oh, I need to clean this up, but I'm tired."
Mm-hmm.
Somebody to do it.
Sure.
So if you need help, ask for it. And then the last part of the peace strategy is the E. This is enjoy. It says this is the day. It doesn't have any fine print associated with it. It is not contingent on anything.
Mm-hmm.
It is a gift that you're given every morning when you open your eyes. And if that's not something to be thankful for, I don't know what is. So staying focused. So you asked me, how do I encourage people to manage stress? Stay focused on those things that are important, which is I'm breathing, I'm living. I may not have been accomplish what I wanted to do today, but tomorrow I get another opportunity.
Yes.
And in the process, I have peace
Mm-hmm.
and be stressed, you know.
That's
So
great.
that's why,
That's
yeah, the
great.
peace
That's great.
strategy.
And I
Yeah,
think and that's very important. It to me it's more important and more beneficial to be positive than to be negative. Oh, woe is me. Oh, woe is me. And those type of people can be very draining.
yeah. Don't invite me to your pity party.
They can be
Uh,
very draining. Before you know it, the conversation has just turned to just very, very negativity, and it just gnaws at me. And sometimes I have to say, "Do you ever have a good day?" Because you're trying to take me down, and I'm not. I refuse. I'm going down fighting. I'm not. I'm not. I don't really care to hear the negativity. Sure, if you got something on that's burning and you want to get it off your chest, that's fine. But it shouldn't be every day.
right.
It
I'm
shouldn't be
not
every
getting
day.
on the merry-go-round.
No.
We had this conversation last week. I gave you advice last week. I
Mm-hmm.
allowed you to pour what was going on last week.
Mm-hmm.
We're not doing that this week.
I agree. You have to limit them to limit yourself because taking it in, you're taking it on, and that's
Right.
something you don't need to do.
Well, I always say I'm not qualified nor equipped to assist you in this matter.
Oh, that's a good one. That's real good. So that's great. That's right. I mean, we have to know who we are and how much basically weight we're willing to carry because as the day comes, things can happen. It's just how you react to them. And I know some days, we're not, I'm not being Pollyanna about it. We're not always happy, but we shouldn't be able to cause someone else to have a bad day either.
I
We
agree.
should not be that. We should not be the reason that they're having a bad day. And sometimes,
I agree.
going to the grocery store or checking out, customer service is not what it used to be. And everybody's like on an attitude. Everybody's just like willing to jump. And I said, sweetie, it's not that deep. And they look at me because I'm going to put on this smile. And they're like, you're right. I'm sorry. So if you join in, we just never know how it's going to escalate. So somebody needs to step aside and say, it's really not that deep. It's really
Right.
not. So yeah, we have a responsibility of being who we are. Not that, like I say, it may not be the same every day, but we have a responsibility. Like you said, I'm not equipped to be, to be
Not
a part
equipped
of
nor qualified.
that.
Well,
And that's
and
great.
I mean, and like I said, the reason I came up with the peace strategy, I wrote about it in the book. I wrote entitled Self-Inflicted Overload because I was overloaded, but I also realized it was self-inflicted
Okay.
because I didn't know how to say no. I'm trying to be perfect. I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to control things. I'm not taking care of my mind, body, nor soul.
Mm-hmm.
I'm only going to God when I think I'm in trouble. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I don't want to listen to nobody else's wisdom. So all
Mm-hmm.
those things together overloads an individual physically and
It does.
literally.
It
And
does.
so self-inflicted. Even on the cover of the book, I show a lady holding a bunch of boxes with titles because we're mothers, we're employees, we're church leaders, we're the volunteer, we're the maid, we're the cook, we're doing homework, and you got all these boxes in your hand, and something's falling. You can't
Mm-hmm.
hold everything. You are overloaded. So how do you address that? You got to have some peace.
You have to. You have to. You got to give yourself some grace and you have to have some peace. I don't care if it's like me. Some days I'm like, I'm just in overload mode. I'm taking a shower and I'm going to bed. And you just have to command that that portion. You have to command, no, I've done enough. I've thought enough. I've refereed enough. I'm good. I'm taking a shower and I'm gonna turn on one of my favorite television shows, and that's gonna be me and them. And that is it. So you have to figure out, which thing you're going to either battle or embrace. And, if it's me, you need to find something positive to do. Now,
Yeah,
you did
I
mention that.
agree.
I'm sorry. I
I
thought you
said
had
I
something to say.
agree.
Great. Now you are an author, so let's talk about your works. The
Let's see, the
self-inflicted,
first book.
uh-huh. The way you have them listed here, self-inflicted overload, then stress less, live more, it ain't over, and shift happens. And I love that t-shirt you had on. Okay. So yeah, let's talk about those.
Okay. Each book I've written has always been in response to something that personally happened to me. So it started off as journaling. I think it's important to write down what's going on, how you feel without editing. Just get it out of you and on paper. And so, like with the self-inflicted overload, I was writing and it turned out to be my first book. Um, then the second book is about coping with change. It ain't over. Three little words that lead to personal and professional fulfillment. And I say fulfillment and not success because everybody I find look at success as being some measure of title or compensation, something
True.
external, but fulfillment is an internal satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up writing that when I retired from the power company. All my friends, because I left early. I was on the leadership track. You know how you start looking at your career and what's next. But life happened, and I felt like I'm looking at my children saying, when did you get out the stroller? I'm
Mm-hmm.
missing. I'm up doing all this career stuff and had some health challenges, and I just reassessed and decided, I'm going to do something totally different. I jumped, and was I scared? Absolutely, but I understand the word courage.
Mm-hmm.
You jump anyway, you're scared. And it was a major change. But in the book, It Ain't Over, it talks about what do you do when you face a setback, a change, or adversity? It ain't over. And while the book was at the printer, this is crazy, my husband passed away.
Mm.
The, I wrote a book to encourage people to give them advice about how to deal with a setback, adversity, or change. And then I had one. So I always say I'm really not the author of that book. I'm
Mm-hmm.
the scribe
Mm-hmm.
because I was writing those things the months leading up to his passing, I
Mm-hmm.
realized now God was just preparing me to
Mm-hmm.
be able to navigate becoming a widow and a single mom all in one day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I spoke to him at 10 that morning, and I still remember him saying, have the boys ready at 2 p.m. I'm going to take them to the barber shop. At
Mm-hmm.
2 p.m., I was at Wood Hospital, and all I can recall are the words, "We're sorry, we've done all we can do."
Wow.
So the book It Ain't Over truly is part of, once again, what do I do now? You know, but like I say, I'm the scribe. And when it comes to um, how do you deal with adversity, change, setback, or what have you, it's all about your perspective. You can look at two people get laid off a job today. One
Mm-hmm.
person is excited and saying, "Oh, now I'm going to do this, 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 and that," and the other person is the world has fallen apart because they were so vested in the corporation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they experience the same thing. One thinks it ain't over, and the other one says it's over, and they're both are right
Mm-hmm.
because based upon what you believe is what comes true. And so for
Exactly.
me, I approach all the little things that could be considered bad or indifferent. I choose and I'm intentional to say, okay, what's the positive I could get out of this? What is the lesson I'm supposed to learn? What is an opportunity in this? Because it's so easy to say it's over. No, it ain't over because I
Mm-hmm.
serve a God anyway that say I can do all things.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be a contradiction or a hypocrite if all of a sudden, I say I can't when he say I can do all things,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
So that was the second book. It ain't over.
Okay.
Stress Less and Live More is just a pocket tabletop book to put on your desk at work to remind you at work. Like a 5 by 5 book with 52 tips on how to stress less and live more.
Mm-hmm.
And it complements self-inflicted overload. And then with the book Shift Happens, and
Mm-hmm.
I said shift, SHIFT, but when life happens, sometimes we don't see the F.
That's
We
true.
think it's something else.
Mm-hmm.
We
Yeah.
think it's something else. And in that case, I had a diagnosis I wasn't expecting
Mm-hmm.
and was really kind of knocked off my feet with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I started journaling and sending an email out to a few friends because they would say, "How are you doing?" And I noticed as I was writing, as the days went by and I was having, my treatments and different things and testing, that my perspective and attitude started shifting. And I was like, there's a blessing in this.
Mm-hmm.
Initially I did not see the blessing in it. But as time went on and things, start emerging and conversations and individuals reaching out to me and asking me for advice, I was like, okay, Lord, I got a new assignment
Mm-hmm.
out of
Mm-hmm.
this. And so that's how shift happens came
Mm-hmm.
about because we all have shifts in our life, but once again, it goes back to your perspective.
Mm-hmm.
You can see the cover of the book saying one thing, and people will say, "Uh-huh, I know what you're talking about. I believe that." And then I said, "Look at it again." And they'll go, "Oh, okay, I see the F in it." I said, "But we're human. When things initially happen, we don't think it's a shift, but in reality, we could choose for it to be one, taking you from season to season, opportunity to opportunity."
Great. And with shift happens, and you talked about one person being laid off, that reminded me of me the first time I was laid off. I was kind of relieved. Be quite honest. I was like, ooh, thank you, Lord. This is so, and then other people were like, how am I going to pay for this? How am I going to pay for that? Well, I didn't have those worries because my car was paid off. The apartment I was renting was not overpriced. I was like, I don't know what y'all gonna do.
I'll be all right. I'll be all
I'm gonna be
right.
fine. And the irony, people were asking me, and I don't know why people want to be up in your Kool-Aid. When you gonna buy a new car? I said, a new car? Why would I need a new car? My car sounds like a kitten when you turn it on. It is paid for. I am good. You know what everybody else didn't want. I said, I'm so happy for you all. And then when the layoff came, I will pay for my car. I was like, well, that's one question I don't have to worry about asking. So shift does happen. And it was kind of expected, but no one knew who was going to be affected. But it worked out.
Okay.
I hate to say it, it worked out very well for me. So I know God was in the plan because that was my prayer. Because I was going to have to take an educational leave to finish up a year in college, and I was like, Lord, and it's up to your manager if they're going to allow you to take the educational leave. So I'm like, Lord, I need that educational leave. I don't know, but I need that educational lead because that was my focus. That was my focus. And so I didn't have to worry about the educational lead when they gave me my three checks.
See?
They gave me my three, yeah, like my money needed to be right, but I did not worry about the educational lead because guess what? God had opened up a door. It may not have seemed that way at that time, but as time went by, I was like, this is my educational lead. I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to worry about anybody saying no to me because now I can move on, take my educational leave, and finish up my last year, and I am good. So that happens, but other people were devastated. I was shocked. I was in shock. I'm not going to say I wasn't because I've never been laid off before, but I'm like, I'm not going to let any grass grow on my feet. We're going to move it. We're going to keep it moving. And I had supportive parents, and supportive family member. Okay, you going to be all right? I said, yeah, I know. I know. I mean, I didn't know how I was going to be okay, but I knew I was going to be okay. So, shift does happen, and it's what you let control you. Um,
Right,
it's what you allow. You just have to move forward. Like at the beginning of our conversation, you put one foot in front of the other. Each day that God grants you a day, a new day, put one foot in front of knowing that He's going to take care of you. And so it is shift does happen. And the other part happens too. Is how you decide to look at it.
right.
So you told me you had a children's book?
Yes, I wrote a book called Mr. Brown, Will You Please Open the Door?
Oh.
And that book, once again, was inspired by a career day at an elementary school in Birmingham. And I'm in the classroom with these fourth graders, and I'm saying, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to be? And all this energy and giggling. I want to be a pro football player. I want to be a teacher. And then one little girl say, I want to be a cook. And her classmates laughed. And you could see from the expression on her face that it just hurt her feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And I immediately dove in to save the day and say, oh, you're not going to be a cook. You're going to be an international chef, and you're going to have all these books, cookbooks on the New York Times bestseller in restaurants in Miami. And she was just smiling like, that's me. And another little boy said, I want to be a cook too. Uh, 2 minutes earlier, you were leading the laughing. And I
Mm-hmm.
left school that day and I said, how many children have dreams, but there's not anybody there who is feeding into it and nourishing that dream? And so,
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Brown, will you please open the door? It's a story about a little girl who she has to go through the red door to make her dreams come true. And she keep asking Mr. Brown to open the door. And he continues to say no. And she's asking why. He says she's not tall enough, smart enough, pretty enough, brave enough. He just come up with all these bogus reasons not to open the door. And then finally he tells her, you don't believe enough.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the problem. When you
Mm-hmm.
believe enough, you recognize that you got everything inside of you already to open the door. And in the end, she realizes she never needed him to open that door.
Great.
So I just love reading that book to at schools, especially when I get to the part where Mr. Brown said, "You're not pretty enough," and all the kids like, I mean, that's the ultimate taboo. You don't tell anybody they're not pretty. But I said,
Mhm.
hold on, it's more to go. But in the end, it's a happy ending that she thanks him for teaching her a valuable lesson that no matter what neighborhood you live in, what your parents do, your color, your skin, or your gender, you are more than enough to open
More
the
than
door
enough.
for
You
yourself.
are more than
More
enough.
than enough.
And
Yep.
and and kids do need to hear that. And I think in this day and time, over the last several years, they need to hear it. I was always that mom that participated in as many field trips as I could, because I know they need extra hands on board, when they're going, and just being active and available on their lives. And then there's that parent, and I'm not judging anyone because I don't know what their circumstances, that are never at any of the field trips. They're I just decided to go on to work. And I was like, everybody has their own priorities.
Right.
You have your own priorities, but sometimes your kids want to see you there. And even another child, they want to see you there. Because
Right.
like I told someone the other day, my job was to get them to the field trip safely and back to the school safely. And thank God we managed that, I don't wonder why no one else is here, or we only have a few parents who are doing this. That's not the priority. The priority is the child and to see that someone will interact with them. That is the
Right.
priority. So tell me about Give It to Me Now.
Give It to Me Now. It's another children's book. I have this dream to write a series because it's the same characters, Destiny and Trevor. You remember Sally, Dick, and Jane
Oh,
series? I'm,
absolutely.
I'm going back in time, but each book built on the next lesson. Well, this one is a lesson in sharing where the children are in conflict over a ball, break a vase, and the mother teach them the lesson that it is better to share than to fight.
Hmm.
And so the story goes on where the young lady comes home from school and she's very hungry. And mom was like, "Why didn't you eat your lunch?" And she said, "I gave it to my friend. He was hungry. You told me to share." So she did. She shared her lunch, her complete lunch with her new friend. So when the mom and dad said, "Well, why don't you invite your friend over?" Because the next day the mom made two lunches because she didn't know the circumstances of her friend. So the little girl shared her lunch again and brought her new friend home, not knowing that the new friend was going to be a dog, a
Oh,
stray. That's
okay. Now you got the trigger going. You got the triggers going, girl.
Yeah, so at that point, the mom is like, absolutely not. We are not gonna have no dog around here. And, they're trying their best to convince mommy, but at the end of the story, she's gonna, they weren't able to take the dog to the pound because it was after 5 on Friday. So the dog
Hmm.
stayed all weekend. And on Monday morning, dad wasn't able to take the dog to the pound, but had to take the dog to the pound. And of course, what happened? You know, she
Mom falls in love.
touches her heart and realize sharing can also include opening your heart as well
Hmm.
as your home. And once again, it's a real life story because when my son's father passed away, the therapist recommended that we get a dog. And I was totally against it. I was raised with independent dogs, the type that stayed outside. They can go away for 3 or 4 days. It didn't matter. They'll come back when they're hungry. That's what I was raised with. And my oldest kind of went through a rough patch of coping and dealing with his dad's death. So I broke down and I got a dog. And I must admit, it helped.
Hmm.
It really helped. But now these boys are 23 and 20, and the last thing they want to be bothered with is a dog. So I have a dog now. But he's definitely part of the family. He's
Sure.
4 legs. I mean, I did pray for a companion for many years after my husband passed away.
Hmm.
I just didn't know he was going to have 4 legs. I
Yes,
thought it
yeah.
would be two, you
Hmm.
know. But the lesson, the second book, Give It to Me Now, is a lesson in sharing so children understand about being compassionate and thoughtful, you know, and it doesn't always have to be another human being. In this case, it's a dog, you
Sure.
know.
That's good. Those are great stories. Now, the power of two words. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Power Two Words came about after It Ain't Over. I always wondered that if Mr. Brooks had known when he was going to transition from this earth, what advice would have wanted his sons to have? I mean,
Hmm.
Jay and Matt was 9 and 12. So those are critical time for especially boys, especially 12-year-old. I wonder, you know, I used to say, I wonder what advice would he have given them. So
Hmm.
I said, they're gonna know what I think when I leave here. So that's the book is based upon my own motherly advice, The Power of Two Words. So everything, it's the Reader's Digest version of motherly wisdom. So everything is two words like thank you. And I explained to my sons why it's so important to be appreciative. What does thank you mean? And for the little things and the big things, you know, another two words is debt free. I explained to them cash is king, credit is bad. If you can't pay the bill in full in 1 month, you can't afford it.
Hmm.
Uh, I go on and say forgive self because we're not going to be perfect. There are times we make decisions and just don't do anything that you can't recover from, you know. And so each topic is just two words, you know,
Hmm.
like that. And I explain it in 100 words or less because I know how children are. I actually taped in the back of the book a $50 bill on the last couple of pages when we went on vacation
Hmm.
to see who's going to actually read the book. And when the youngest actually got to the $50 bill, he was about to say something. I'm like, no, 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 shh, don't say nothing. I
Hmm.
don't know if my other one found the $50 yet. I don't know. Uh, I know the youngest one, he found his, and I said, don't say anything to your brother, you know.
Hmm. That is hilarious. That is hilarious. But it's a good motivating tool.
Yes,
That sometimes you have to start finish some things that you've started. It
that,
just may be a gift in the end. So whether it's knowledge, whether it's money, there is gift in the end. So that's a great one. Now, did you combine a little motherly advice with the power of two words, or are they two separate books?
and they're the same book.
Okay.
The Power of Two Words, the subtitle is A Little Motherly Advice.
Okay. Okay. Well, great. Now, where can we find your books?
You can go to my website, joyceebrooks.com, JoyceeE Brooks.com, or downtown at Solomon's Bookstore, downtown Birmingham at
Okay.
Solomon's Bookstore.
Okay. Okay. And how can they reach out to you?
They can reach out to me at jbrooks at joyceebrooks.com. It might just be as easy to go to my website and
Sure.
click the contact, and
Mm-hmm.
they can just text or call me directly. I like text 205 529 6471.
Okay.
Welcome to reach out to me that way. If I don't immediately respond back, I promise you within 24 hours, I always reach back out to anyone. But I feel like I'm walking in my purpose if I can share a word, a thought, or a deed that helps somebody else on their journey.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm inspired. I am inspired. So you just never know. Just for the audience sake, there was a health fair a few weeks ago, and I always try to go around to all the vendors. And that's how I met Miss Brooks and her books. And the t-shirt is what got me. I had to look closely at the t-shirt because it said it happens. And I said, I found the F. And I was like, oh, okay, I like that. I like that. So we dug up a conversation from that. So um we're more than happy to have her. We will grace her grace and she graced us with her presence by coming on. So we thank her for that. We thank her for her time and just inspiration. A lot of words of wisdom, a lot of gems and nuggets were dropped. So let's pick them up. Let's use them. Do you have any parting words that you would like for the audience to know?
Well, first, I want to thank you for stopping by my booth at the health fair because initially it was a last minute request for me to participate. And I'm like, I'm going to do it, not knowing if anybody would stop and talk to me or purchase a book. And I'm so glad I met you and you
Thank you.
extended this invitation because I fly low on the radar you know. My marketing and all that, I don't do well, but I thank you for
Hmm.
having this platform and giving someone like myself, a author, an opportunity to share. And to your audience, thank you for listening to this podcast. And if there's anything I can do, or if you have any questions for me or opportunity for me to come to your school and read a book to the kids or talk to a group of young ladies about especially the young ladies who are in college, just got married, got your first child. I would love to tell you, please don't overload yourself.
True,
but
true, true.
but
Yeah,
thank
they need
you.
they give a lot of advice, but do they get a good bit of the correct advice? Um, Having babies and growing your family can be very, very challenging. It's not like it
Especially if
is
you
on
got a
television.
career. Right.
Especially when you have a career.
Yeah.
It's called work-life balance. And we need some direction and we need some support in that. I said I have passed that, guys. I think I know what Miss Joyce is talking about. You
Yeah.
need the support. You need to be able to balance it, and still you need to be able to take care of yourself. So self-care is definitely is paramount at that point in time. So that would be great.
Okay.
So thank
But
you so very much. Thank everyone for tuning into Gentry's Journey. We will have this video ready and it'll be on my website. It will be on YouTube and all things podcasts. So thank
okay.
you all. Y'all have a good evening.
And remember, it ain't over.
It ain't over. It ain't over. So
Even when shit happens.
even when shift happens, let's always remember that, guys. Let's always keep that.